Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans gender queer spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain, and welcome to transjoyboise, the podcast where we celebrate the vibrant stories, resilience, and connections of Boise's trans community. Through heartfelt conversations, uplifting narratives, and shared experiences, we explore the many ways transjoy thrives despite challenges.
Each episode highlights inspiring voices from local advocates and artists to everyday heroes, showcasing the beauty and strength of being trans in Boise and beyond. Together, we foster understanding, amplify voices, and create a space for joy, healing, and solidarity.
Tune in, connect, and celebrate with us. Transjoy is here, and we're unstoppable.
I love it.
Yes, yes.
I'm Pacey, trans, mask, non-binary, mental health and recovery advocate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Working on overtime this week, huh?
A little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Everyone is.
Like mental health recovery sounds like my weekend or my week.
Everyone's, yeah. I think everyone right now is feeling really overwhelmed with everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
It's every time you look at your phone or you talk to someone, you hear some more really, deeply upsetting news or updates of things that have been being passed.
Yeah.
By the new administration.
Yeah, it seems like there's something all the time. Like I've been pretty good with just like not getting too into everything, but the last couple of days I've got sucked into like all the things happening, and because I think I was starting to feel a little bit bad about just trying to focus on me and what was impacting me, and just feeling like there's so many other things that are happening right now that are really difficult for people that like I don't know what it's like. Like I'm not an immigrant, so I don't know what it's like to feel concerned about ICE or there's just a lot more issues that I think are maybe even like sometimes I feel like it's even more pressing than me getting my HRT, if I'm honest. Like, which is important. Like, and that's the thing that's so hard. It's like all of this stuff is important, and it's really not about saying that one thing is more important than the other, but it does kind of pits us against one another because there's this like combating, and heaven forbid you have intersectionality in your experience. Like heaven forbid you be Black and brown and queer and trans and all these, you know what I mean? Like because it just makes it even more challenging.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I know that we've been hearing a lot like this is a strategy. This is deliberate on this administration's part, because if you're constantly overwhelmed and you're never going to have the time to really resist or respond to things when you don't even fully understand what's happening. There's like this barrage of these things happening, and it's to keep us kind of confused and afraid and unable to really take action, because as soon as you maybe start to organize something to protest one thing, there's something else and it's worse that you have to stay on top of. And
there's so much ambiguity or even uncertainty about what's actually going to happen, just because they decided they're going to cut federal funds to like all these programs. Like, how's that actually going to play out? Is it going to impact? Is it like, and some things are happening like right away. And so I think it's really confusing. And then you have, I think one of the challenges too, is you have people who are freaking the fuck out.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have people that are just like, meh.
Yeah.
And there's like this, and the reality is probably somewhere in between. Like that's what I've been trying to do, is really try to find that sweet spot of it to where I don't get hysterical. But I also take things serious enough because I don't think we get to live in a time in which we can't just not do something.
Right.
Like that's what they're trying to get us to do. They're trying to get us to just
complacent,
be overstimulated, like freaked out, and just like fucking give up, and just like hide in our homes or whatever we're going to do and not give any sort of like fight back to what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And with, everyone being under attack right now, it's even more difficult for us to rally together. Like you said, it's divisive. So you have all of these marginalized groups who are facing some sort of discrimination, having their rights taken away. And how do you rally for all of them?
Yeah.
It's impossible. And they know that it's impossible, and it's deliberate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's tough. And I don't know if people that are listening can relate to this or not, but like, I feel like I'm a pretty like wide-ranged individual, and I'm sure I have my blind spots, but I feel like I really try to be open to different issues and other people's struggles, and try not to get caught up in my own, and try not to get divisive. But I've found myself, feeling like, well, where, like being at a march or being at a rally and being like, where's the trans person, or where's the trans narrative in this? Like, I care about women, and I care about reproductive rights, and I care about queer people having access to their marriage, and these sorts of things, but then I can't help but think like, but where's the voice of the trans person? And again, like, I don't like, and that I feel bad about that, but there is an element of that, and I'm sure there's plenty of times they can look at what we're doing and thinking like, I think especially everything is so white, it's really a lot more, even more challenging, I think, to get Black and brown folks and people from other marginalized communities to really kind of step up and be in the front of things right now.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
I think, no, totally. And I completely agree. I think, right now we need to fight as a community, and we need to be fighting for everyone in our community. So,
but how do we do that too? Because
it's hard.
Because like, I know for me, the energy, like, we had a rally on Sunday. We had a rally yesterday. We had a celebration last night. There were a ton of other things that I'm probably not even aware of. And I just didn't have the spoons. Like, I didn't go to any of the rallies. I was feeling kind of bad about it, but I just did not have it in me. I went to the women's march, was it a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
But when it came to the rally this Sunday, and then even the Add the Words rally, I just couldn't bring myself emotionally. Like, I just couldn't bring myself to go. Thankfully, I did go to the reception last night and just kind of be surrounded by people in that way, which felt really nice. But yeah, it's I don't know. I've just been really challenged because you want to show up for everything and you want to support all the different communities, but everything's happening separate and on its own.
Yeah, and I think
it's impossible to do it all at once, almost.
Exactly, but I think the thing that would make it feel more possible is if there was more communication between everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think that.
But we're all scrambling.
Well, yeah, we are all scrambling, and that's part of what's happening. That's on purpose, so that we can't resist, we can't rally against all of these things because there's simply too much going on. But I think, with the rally on Sunday, it was great to see all of these people come together and be passionate about it. It was like 25 really degrees outside. People were freezing, but they were there. They had their signs. They were like cheering and clapping, and the speakers were wonderful. We had 3 really good speakers. But we were lacking a trans speaker. And I think that, I'm not trying to upset anyone by saying this, but I feel like it was a little tone deaf at this time to lack that representation just because of how under attack. And it's not like, oh, it's just my opinion that the trans community is under attack. Everyone fucking knows that the trans community is under attack at this point. And I think that coming together and representing everybody right now is really important because we are all one family.
Yeah. We're even just finding that way to leverage it a little bit, because there was one of the things that I did see was a lot of trans people show up for the hearing on the gay marriage. Was that last Wednesday?
Yeah.
There was a hearing. It was during the day. I had to work my shift, but like, I saw a lot of trans people showing up for what, to some degree, gay marriage or same-sex marriage may not even be an issue for them directly. Again, it just kind of depends on how paperwork fills out and how people identify. But at the end of the day, we all know it's related. It's all connected, whether it impacts me personally or the people that I care about or the people that are in my broader community.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all of our fight. And we've seen, at first they were coming for trans people. Yeah. And then, but the first, what was it? Resolution of the year was coming for queer marriage. Yeah, exactly. So it's all of us. And I think that we have been finding as a community a lot of strength in everyone coming together. Yeah. And it's been really beautiful to see. And I think that we just need to continue that momentum because it's going to carry us. It's going to take us great places. It's just right now, everyone is so overwhelmed and burdened by everything that's going on, that it's difficult to kind of keep going at that pace.
Yeah. Well, and like yesterday was the anniversary, the 10th anniversary for the Add the Words campaign, which for folks who may or may not know, 10 years ago, there was like the first and only hearing after many years of advocacy, people getting arrested multiple times. I think it was like 40 some people arrested at one point. And 10 years ago, they did the hearing and then nothing happened. And like nothing still has happened. And so they kind of had like a opportunity to watch documentary last night and kind of celebrate. And I was talking with this guy afterwards. He was really upset. Like he was like crying in my chest like a baby. Like, and he was just petrified. And then he was also reflecting. He's like, we did the work. Like those people showed up and showed out over and over and over for years, and they still lost. And like, it's even worse now. Like, how are we going to show up bigger and better than that?
Yeah.
And then are we going to win?
Yeah.
You know, and I just told him, I was like, we just got to keep the faith. Like, we just have to keep fighting and we have to keep trying. And like, and he's like, but not everyone is even like, because he was like, not everyone's even like understanding. Like, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
You know, like it feels surreal. It doesn't feel, and it's like, and we have to balance our own mentality. I think because it does feel so unreal, it's really hard to comprehend that it's really happening or what it all means. And I think some people get it more than others.
And again, that goes back to the strategy that they're using, that they're implementing. And it's very effective. I mean, you see some people that are almost like paralyzed to do anything because they're so upset by everything. You have other people that don't even really necessarily know what's going on or understand the extent to which things are progressing. And then yet still you have people who sort of are willfully blind to what's happening. And I think that group is the most frustrating for me personally. I see that a lot with my partner, not my partner, but my partner's friend group. And it really is infuriating to me because you have this marginalized group like queer people, non-binary people, and they're going through all of these things. They're actively losing their rights.
Right.
And then they have to justify their reactions to that. And that in and of itself is just another injustice that the queer community is going through right now.
It can be really isolating and it becomes almost potentially gaslighting because it's like you're having this experience, but everyone else around you is telling you, no, it's not that bad.
Yeah, like, oh, you're overreacting. It's really, that's not going to happen.
But I think that's also, again, part of the whole strategy. I'm feeling it now, but like I've always been the type of person, I have a hard time believing that people are just being horrible to be horrible. But I believe it now. And that there's intentionality behind what is happening and how it's happening.
Oh yeah.
And I think for me, I've always kind of thought like, oh, evil is just about being like blindsided or you're maladapted in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like you cannot be fully aware and conscious of what you're doing and still do shitty things. And yet it feels
we're beyond that. Like there was one that I read about a couple days ago, and some of these things, they just seem so outlandishly cruel. They're like, how is this real? Like for instance, when Trump signed the executive order saying that his administration would only recognize someone's biological sex at birth, male or female, that has a lot of implications that we don't even know about yet. And one of them was when that order went into effect, it changed a provision called the 2003 Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA. And that was passed under the administration to combat like the rampant sexual assault that happened in the U.S. prison system. It was applied by Biden and Obama to protect trans inmates because they're already at like a really high risk of assault. So under this new executive order, those protections are gone. And what is the point in that? Unless it's just to make people suffer.
Yeah.
I mean, things like those are the things that we're dealing with now.
Yeah. And I guess there's an element of thinking like I don't know. It's like, how can you know all that is happening and still do it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, I could understand being short-sighted, not understanding the full implications of something, but I think you have to know at some point, and especially when you're like the president or something, like you have people around you who,
It's
like, if you yourself don't know, somebody else is pointing that shit out to you.
It's not a byproduct of his executive order, I think, and I think that's something that a lot of people are still struggling to kind of wrap their heads around. This is the point, is to, eradicate these marginalized groups. And I think once we start to understand that more as a community, I think we might be able to organize a little bit better, because I'm hoping that we'll get more people interested in wanting to protest this.
Yeah. Well, I think more people are waking up, but I know that's such a trigger word, but I think more and more people are beginning to wake up, and I think it might take that. Like, it might take, like, people really, like, I think shit might really have to hit the fan for people to, like, really react. And unfortunately, that's going to come at the price of a lot of harm.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, I do feel like pain is often a touchstone for change. And I don't think that's a healthy or the best way for it, but any sort of toxic change or toxic relationship usually ends with a lot of pain, And so I feel like maybe I think AOC was talking about this too. It's like, it's a capitalist, like, this country was kind of created this way, and as much as we want to paint this beautiful American dream, like land of the free, like there's a lot of the things about this country that have been set up for it to become corrupt and to fall in the way that it's going to. So in a lot of ways, it's doing exactly what it was created to do. And we need to create something different. And sometimes something has to die before something else can live,
That's unfortunately
not to get all spiritual and shit.
No, unfortunately, I think that's true. And I'm worried that in this country, we've always sort of had this mentality of like, well, that won't happen here.
Yeah, we're above it. We're beyond it. But it wasn't that long ago that we were getting Japanese folks and putting them in concentration camps not far from here.
Exactly.
It really wasn't that far.
They had underground tunnels for that here in this city.
I know. It really wasn't that long ago. So it's like, and yet it still feels like to us like it was either something that never happened or it was so whatever that, like, that's so like, oh, we would never.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, we had camps. Like, we had camps. We ain't no better.
Yeah.
We ain't no better than any other country or any other group of people. We can be just as horrible to one another as anyone else.
And I think that's what worries me the most, is that mentality that so many people have. Just that, it's really bad right now, but they're gonna stop this. Like, the Democrats are gonna do something to prevent that from happening, because this is America. Stuff like that doesn't happen here. We're safe, even if it's really terrible right now. It's just gonna be 4 years, and then it'll be something new. And I think that that's a really dangerous outlook to have right now.
I couldn't even imagine this going through 4 years of this. Like, it just doesn't feel like it's gonna. I cannot imagine it happening that long.
No, I mean, it already feels like it's been a year and a half, and it's been 9 days.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like something would have to give. Like something would have to give. Like, people would be done.
Exactly.
I don't know what that means, but.
And you're
to
right.
Go at this degree or this level for the next 4 years would be destructive, to say the least.
Yeah. And well, I mean, so many things are happening around the world because of this, and
I mean, it's kind of cool to also see other countries and groups of people in other parts of the world that are like pulling for us.
Yeah, and protesting.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of scary that it's so difficult to see those things on social media here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, I've been hearing some people say, last night I heard a couple people say they feel really bad that they're not doing anything.
Well, then stop feeling bad and do something. Oops. I mean, not so much. Like, we all have that process, right?
Mhm.
But I think, I mean, and some of that, I think some of that might be real for us to check into. Am I not doing anything? Because I think sometimes we are, and we're not fully aware of it. So I think if somebody is saying that to themselves, I think the big thing would be like, really think about, are you really not doing anything? I mean, I think that's something we all need to really kind of be looking at, because I don't think we can afford to be like not doing anything. But I think we often have to look around and see what we are actually doing, because I think sometimes we are doing more
Yeah.
than what we realize. And just existing as the people that we are in this day and age is a lot. Still going to work, still showing up for our families and our friends. Like,
Mhm.
to some degree, I almost feel like that's the most powerful thing we can do, is just live our lives anyway. To get married, to still go by our names, even if the government doesn't say they want to, or go by the genders that we go by, you know what I mean? Regardless of what the government is saying. And I think, I think that's a hard thing to do right now. But at the end of the day, it's just, I mean, it's not just the government, but like, we got to live our lives.
Exactly.
Especially if things are going to get worse or things aren't going to change. Like, we can't wait until, I think we can't wait until things are okay
Mhm.
to be okay.
I think that even just like you said, existing right now, or creating art, anything that we're doing right now is an act of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So if it feels like you're disappointing yourself because you're not at rallies or you're not doing these things to protest, you're still just existing is an act of
Mm-hmm.
protest
Yeah.
at this point. So it's just take the time to be gentle with yourself, because it's been so much right now, but eventually this is going, and this is terrible, but eventually this is going to feel normal.
Yeah.
And then once it does and everything kind of balances out, and you might feel like you have a little bit more to give.
And more agency
Mhm.
in whatever's happening. Because right now it can definitely feel a little hard to find that grip.
I mean, especially after the week we've had.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everyone is reeling from that and trying to find a baseline. And I think that's another part of this plan that he's doing, is it's like,
Right.
it's trying to unsettle us and dysregulate us so much that we can barely do the basic things that we have to do every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you believe? So like the cafe was just a few days ago. Our first ever transjoyboise cafe was like, today's Wednesday, so it was Saturday, but it feels
Oh my
like
God.
it feels like it was a lifetime ago.
It feels like it was at least a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, if anybody's wondering. It was really cool to have people show up and just kind of check in about things. Like paper, we mostly just sat around and like talked, which was really kind of cool. But then we did check in with some folks around like documentation and that sort of thing, which is probably something we could talk a little bit about, because I think things have changed since when we first started talking about paperwork. We were very much about like, get your stuff, get it now. Like, get your passports, get your gender marker, get your name changed. And that might be something you might not want to do right now. For some folks, depending upon their situation. We know that people who are wanting to get X's on their passports, that's been kiboshed, right? They're saying if you're changing your gender marker, that also might give some sort of flag. And again, it's hard for us to say like what anyone should do in this particular situation, but we did want to just kind of let people know kind of what's happening. I know there are a lot of really great people from the passport people who work in passports who are sharing a lot of information online around kind of having to deal with that. So if passport is something that you're really passionate about, there is a lot of really great information out there to kind of like figure that out. But I know for me personally, I know we did that thing a few weeks ago now, and I talked about how I filled out my paperwork and I was excited to do all that. And honestly, I didn't do any of it. I didn't pay for it. I didn't have the money to pay for things. I didn't send anything in. So at this point, I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna do anything right now.
It's hard. Like, I think I was one of the last people to get a gender marker change on a passport, because mine came in the mail like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't use the gender marker X, and that's the one that is most under fire right now. And the way that they're doing that, the way that they're able to target it, is with his new administration, they only recognize male and female. So right now, anyone who has an X on their passport, that is being targeted.
Gotcha.
To the point where we're hearing that some people are having their passports confiscated, and there's the possibility of, even like, if you're trying to come back into the country with a gender marker as X, you can be detained possibly. So that's where we're at. So I think, I mean, we can't tell you what to do, but if I personally was going through that process again, I don't know if I would change my gender marker right now.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't know if they're going to hold it or confiscate it
or create a list, or
Well, I think they already
gets,
have.
that's
Yeah.
the stuff that gets scary for me. It's just like people collecting these lists of trans people,
Yeah.
or non-binary people, or have-away people, and then what are they going to do with the list? So what are they going to use the list for? You know, I mean, there's no reason to think they wouldn't come after us in the same way they're coming after like illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigrants,
right?
exactly.
Like, there's no reason why they wouldn't decide like, okay, well, these folks are criminals. They're not abiding by the laws of whatever, this, that, the other. I don't see why at some point down the road that couldn't be our reality. That sounds so,
I mean, yeah, but it's
grim.
I think it's good to even be thinking about it, because even if it is wildly outlandish and it never happens, it's better to be kind of prepared for it. At least have it on your radar.
Yeah.
Because like the reality of this right now, and we kind of debated about whether or not to talk about this, because we don't want to scare people. Like, that's not what we want to do. We just want people to be informed. We know someone who is traveling out of the country in just a couple weeks, and they have an X gender marker on their passport, and they are debating whether or not to even go on their trip because they're worried that they may be detained when they're trying to come back into the country.
Yeah.
And this isn't something I read about on Reddit. It's not something I saw on TikTok. This is someone that we know personally,
right,
that we interact with daily. And this is something that's a very real and valid concern right now.
Yeah. And there's the quandary of like, do I even go on the trip? Do I go on the trip anyway? You know, I know there's also like, I know for me, there's a lot of like also wanting to claim my own agency in some things, to be like, fuck you, I'm gonna go do the thing I'm gonna do. Like, I'm not gonna let, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And so it's like this weird balance, I'm sure, of like feeling like you're like standing up for yourself and doing what you need to do for you and your personhood, but then also having to, and if you have family or you have, you know, people that are dependent upon you, or, you know, I can't even imagine, like me, I'm just a free agent, you know, like, so, and I can find it challenging. So I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to have folks that rely on you on a daily basis and kind of considering those sorts of decisions as well, you know?
Yeah.
It's, I feel for a lot of people right now because there's so much uncertainty. I guess the only certainty is that like shit's on fire,
pretty
but
much.
like, but how everything's going to roll out, how that's going to impact you as an individual, like, I just don't even know. And I think sometimes it does feel like it's so far away, but we have people in our world that are in these predicaments. We have people who are concerned about ice, you know. I was hearing something about Twin Falls, and just down the road from where we are now. And you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just something that's happening out there. I think one of the differences though is like, I mean, some of that's like, so we've been living in like a shitty state for a while, right? So in some ways we could kind of look at the rest of the country and think they're having a better experience, and we're just kind of unique in that. I think there is something to thinking around that this is happening all over the country.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, where it feels a little bit more big.
Yeah.
In ways that I wasn't initially really considering, I think. And then just impacting at a federal level. I think in a lot of ways we reveled in the rights and privileges that came from like federal laws and federal protections that are now not there. Exactly. So it's just kind of a double.
So what are we doing?
What are we doing? We ain't nothing.
Yeah.
So we talked about how we did the transjoyboise cafe last week. So we're doing that the fourth Saturday of each month. Our next one is going to be February the 22nd. And it's from noon to 3 p.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church.
Yep.
So we are going to have we're going to be able to check in with folks around paperwork and have some other resources there. But a lot of folks were just coming in to connect.
Yep.
We also are having a wedding.
Yep. Oh, I'm so excited. We're having a trans wedding at the cafe. And I honestly think that is exactly what the community needs right now.
Yeah. So, and the couple, Benjamin and Chris, and Adair's, they're little ones, but they are wanting you all to come. They would love for community to come out and experience this time with them. And so we're going to have cake, and we're going to have just lots of beautiful trans and queer people all over. I'm super excited to be officiating their wedding. And I think one of the things is like, this is a couple that I was going to marry further on down the road. But some people are feeling like they need to marry sooner than later. So that's something I think that I've been hearing a lot more of, is like people maybe aren't changing gender markers and doing those sorts of things, but they are getting married. They're making sure adoption paperwork is filled out. They are making sure that like medical rights and privileges and all of that is lined up, estates, all of that sort of legal stuff is all still really big and probably still really important. Because they even talk about like, even if somewhere down the road the Supreme Court decides it's a state rights issue, they do have like a trigger thing into where it would happen automatically here.
There's.
But even at that, I think there's still like this grandfathered clause. Like if you're already married, you might be
able to stay.
To stay. It's just maybe new marriages won't happen. And again, who knows? There's a lot of things down the road, but I know a lot of people are feeling the pressure to take care of that stuff sooner than later. And a lot of times we need to take care of that stuff sooner than later anyway. I know. Especially when it comes to medical stuff and protections and all that. That's stuff we honestly should already have in place with a lot of our loved ones and stuff.
I agree. Just for protections.
And
we're starting our little support group.
Yes.
On Thursdays.
Someone call it like a social group.
Social
support group.
Social support,
we're not therapists.
No.
Not by
we're not therapists, and it's not going to be like
a traditional kind of
like a recovery.
We're not going to sit around in a circle and talk about our feelings.
No.
We're going to like sit over coffee and talk about our feelings. No, like it's not going to be orchestrated. It's basically just going to be like a time in a community room to just kind of like hang out.
And that's kind of what like the cafe
eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, like just being around other people that are, going through the same or similar experiences was really validating. And I think it's really important for us to be coming together in times like these anyway, just as a community. And I think that it's really healing.
It's a lot of, I think, what the cafe was, but just on a smaller scale. And it's something more like regular and right now. Because I think that's the thing for me, is there's a lot of things that we're working on down the road, or even like these cafes are great, but you have to wait till the end of the next month or whatever. And it just feels like we need more regular like connection somehow. So we, Roots Market they have a community room. They're more than willing to let us use it. They're excited to be hosting us. They're a really great organization. Trans non-binary people work there. I spend a lot of time there myself. So I think it's a really great location and great spot for that.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes. And then we need the app, right?
We're still getting the app going, and we're building our wait list. So that way, as soon as we launch it within this month, we'll be able to just kind of hit the ground running and just start being able to interact with everyone and get the community together in one place, as soon as it launches.
Well, and we're getting lots of like, the last time I looked a while ago, we had like 40 some people on the waiting list. So, and so the notifications are going off all the time, which is really exciting. We haven't anticipated, like it should be sooner than later, right?
I would imagine probably within this month.
So Yeah, it's something that's happening soon, but not like tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
But probably within the next couple of weeks.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I think everything seems to be going smoothly with that.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it'll be maybe 3-4 weeks.
Yeah. I think that was all the things we wanted to talk about. I mean, I think as you know, we are getting a lot more engagement on our socials and our podcast. So please do share them, comment. We really love hearing from you all. And then we're also working on getting ready to have guests on. So I'm sure you're all tired of just looking and listening to us. But I think starting as soon as next week, we're hoping we're going to start having a guest with us each week. So if you yourself are interested in being such a guest, reach out to us, put it in the comments or DM us. Or if you'd like to nominate or like to see somebody on the podcast, that would be great for those ideas as well. So
perfect. Looking forward to seeing some of those.
Yeah, so take care of yourselves. Don't be hard on yourself, and surround yourself with people who love you and care about you, because we all need that a little extra right now.
Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.